And welcome to Let 'Em Talk. I'm Paul DiRienzo. I got another great show in store for you. Our guest, Marisa Michelson. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you on.
Here.
Right, she's a singer, a director of the chor. Right, is that how do you say it? The
that
choral,
is how you pronounce it. Constellation Chor.
Constellation Chor,
yes.
Right? CHOR,
right.
not CORPS, right?
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
The Constellation Chor, choral-inspired singer-composer, and the premiere of the Divinity Project at our famous Judson Memorial Church in Lower East Side. Everybody knows, and we're going to be talking a lot about what you have in store for us because it looks pretty interesting. We'll be showing a video in a little bit.
Great.
So let's begin by asking. Let me ask you about yourself. All right, what you are a singer. What does that mean to be a singer? What kind of singer? We've had opera singers, we've had jazz singers, we've had scat singers. What kind of singer? What kind of singer and singer are you?
Yeah. Right? Well, the central thing that I believe about singing is that it's a way to freely express many different kinds of realities, kind of personal realities, universal realities, almost imagined realities, that it offers a landscape for exploring. And so if you explore the voice as coming from the body, as it's inside of the body. So I was originally trained classically and trained as a musical theater singer, and I sing in Monteverdi Bartók quartet, for example. But I would say that primarily I've become more and more interested in singing as a mode of exploration, and so I explore singing as all across the range, and what kinds of different sounds can I make, and what kinds of different sounds can I invite other people that I work with to make, and
make a sound. What kind of sound?
Okay.
Great, thank you. That was great. I didn't know you'd respond so beautifully right away. Great. So, so tell us a little bit about the program that we're talking about tonight.
Yeah. So the Divinity Project is it's ultimately a kind of larger 3 and even more multi-part project, but this is 2 parts, and it explores the Song of Songs, texts from the Song of Songs, and also Sappho's poetry.
All right. And okay, so tell us when and where it's going to be, and then we'll go back to that.
Great. So this is February 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 8 p.m. at Judson, this historic, beautiful space at Judson.
Right. Just south of Washington Square Park in the village.
Exactly. Yes.
Right, great. And people, there's a website, or how can people find out more information?
Yeah, my website. So it's marisamichelson.com. That's Marisa and Michelson. You can go there for information, and there's also... There's some more, but that's a great place.
Right, how to get tickets and all that kind of thing, right? Of course, we plug things here all the time. That's
Thank
great.
you so much.
Nobody's making a profit. We know that in the arts, right? We're all getting rich in the arts,
right? Oh, man, that's a whole nother topic of conversation.
Well, we always get to that, and we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Let's talk, though, about, I'm very interested in the, you talk about the Song of Songs, which I looked up on Wikipedia before I came.
Oh, yeah?
Right. Well, the Song of Solomon, I've heard of that.
Well,
I didn't know
it's the
same thing. I didn't know it was the same thing. Right. What is? And then, of course, Sappho from the island of Lesbos, the fragments of Sappho, the poetry, Aphrodite, all that kind of thing.
Beautiful.
So this is all very sexual stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So tell us more.
So it's certainly the imagery used is very erotic in both of these texts, and it's interesting to me, it's always been interesting to me as using erotic imagery as a way to kind of describe a divine experience. So this is something that happens, of course, across the centuries and in various contexts, and I started becoming interested in that conceptually, especially regarding women and these figures, these female figures over time who would write about their experience of God. Let's say Simone Weil, Hildegard von Bingen, and Eloise. d'Argenteuil. I don't do French well, but they would write about, and Marguerite Porete is another one. They would kind of describe their divine experience with spirit in very, very sexual and sensual terms. And this was super interesting to me. They would also often talk about a lack of self, like, let me be lost, lose me, let me have no sense of who I am. And there was often this real kind of use me, you know, and the God imagery was often so masculine.
Right. Oh, God would, I give myself
Yeah, I
to
give
God.
myself up. I'm taken over by, and
Right.
it's so fascinating to me. I was thinking, why were these particular very powerful women? Because they were the powerful women. That was how you could have power, you know, in other times.
What is the Song of Solomon? Describe what that is. It's in the Bible, right?
Yes.
What part of the Bible is it in?
It's in Genesis, and it's, I think, now I'm nervous.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but
you can look it up.
Yeah, we can look it up. But it's a text, again, from a female's perspective, and it's a long poem. It's a very long poem, and it again does this very thing where it uses imagery to describe God and to describe the uniting of this woman. There's character. It's kind of a narrative poem. So this woman unites with her lover.
I see.
And it's told in a story. It's like her village doesn't want her to be with this man, but she does it anyway. And, you know, she's in a fever of love, and she is going to fight for this love no matter what. It's a kind of romance. But then over time, different scholars have read that, you know, as a metaphor for actually, depending on who you talk to, the Hebrew people's relationship with God.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, and then the next is, of course, Sapphic Lesbos,
Right.
island of Lesbos. Although it's famous now as a stopping over point for refugees.
Right.
But so we've gotten to know the people of Lesbos, who are very heroic people who stepped forward to save the lives of many, many thousands of people. We've had programs about that here.
It's beautiful.
So we can't stereotype these poor people as the island of lesbians. Obviously, there's more to it, but historically, it's always been Sapphic or Lesbos is female love, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean,
and that's part 2 of your.
Yeah, and she was alive. I mean, this was in the 500s BCE, so it's such a different time, obviously. But I think that's, and what's particularly interesting to me is that we have only these fragments. So we have maybe 3 words of a poem that have survived, or 6 words, or just words and then a space where something's missing and another word. And so again, the imagery is just what's compelling about it. It's like these little mysteries of text. What was she seeing? What did she mean? And the poems are about love and about desire and about wanting. And many of them are, she's a female, they are towards another female.
Do you actually sing the words, or do you write words that you think
so what I've done with them is, the text is there, and often in those spaces where there are holes, I'll do something like a kind of extended vocal technique, or fill it with movement. So I have this amazing movement director working with me.
Sure.
And so...
And how many are in the chor?
So in this piece, there's going to be 15 singer movers, and then 3 instrumentalists for the Song of Songs piece.
I see.
Yeah.
And what are the instruments?
We have bansuri flute, very involved percussion, and cello. There's also piano and melodica, but that's shared by the performers, by the singers.
Is this the first program like this, or you've been doing these kind of programs in the past, or you're working on other ones?
This is, in a way, for me personally, with my artistic journey, it is kind of the first of its kind for me. Like, I have written an off-Broadway musical that was very successful and was nominated for Drama Desks, and Tamar of the River, and that had a cast album, and I have another off-Broadway musical coming up, and this April, and I've written an oratorio for hundreds of singers. But this particular piece was my way of taking a new turn in my aesthetic journey and my work, and trying to figure out, what will I create if I am if I am in charge conceptually,
Okay.
and if I'm, the composer writing the music and also
This is your baby.
creating some sort of new form.
Right.
It's totally my baby. Yeah.
Good for you. And so we have an example of your work that's queued up right now, right?
Great. Yeah.
Let's go to that now and see it, and then we can talk about it more. We presented it, now let's actually see it, a clip, and then we'll come back and talk about it some more. So stay tuned. Here it goes.
Remember me, how with sweet costly oil you anointed yourself, and on a soft bed you would let loose your longing, and neither any nor any holy place, nor was there from which we were absent. No, we were never absent. Nor no dance with simply wanna be dead. Weeping, she left me. She left with her tears, and she said, how badly things have turned out for us. I swear against my will, I leave you, and I
Yay.
All right, that was great. Wow, what a wonderful presentation. Great.
Yeah,
I love that.
thank you.
Thank you very
It was
much.
fun to see it in
All right,
this context.
Marisa Michelson has joined us, and she's talking about what you saw, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and of course the event that is we're talking about, which is going to be coming up on February 1st, 2nd, and 3rd at Judson Memorial Church in the Village, and at 8 p.m., and you can get more information at your website, right? And also
Indeed.
it says here brownpapertickets.com.
Right. That's a more direct link to the
Right.
tickets, but you'd go to
Okay.
ddproject.brownpapertickets.
Right.
Yeah.
Desired Divinity Project.
Yes.
That's what it's called. The
Yes.
Desired Divinity Project. And we were talking earlier about how this is inspired by biblical singing, the Song of Solomon, as
Yeah.
well as ancient Greek
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
And so what were we watching right
So
then?
that was a piece from Sappho fragments. So in addition, as part of this Desire Divinity project, in addition to the live performances, I'm making short films of each of the Sappho fragments.
Sure.
And this one is one of the longer poems that exists, and it's the opening line is, "I simply want to be dead." That's as translated by Anne Carson, so her translations are amazing.
Out of sadness because of love lost or something.
Yeah,
like that?
her lover has left her. This woman,
Right.
and so in this video, you just saw that I am that woman. I am Sappho. I am channeling Sappho's spirit,
Sure.
singing as Sappho, and my lover, this woman, has left me.
Right.
And the other
That's why
people
you're hugging
sing,
the tree.
hugging the tree, hugging the tree, beating the
Right.
beating the different
Right.
And the other people in that video and who are also part of the Constellation Chor and are going
Yeah.
to be performing are Tamron Goldberg, Calliope Siamidu, and Jen Anaya. And the filmmaker for these fragments is Paul Lieber. So we sing this piece in the Desire Divinity Project, and it's different live. It really is about how do we fill those spaces,
Yeah.
which are totally silent,
Sure.
with some movement, some gesture.
So that's the parts. Because if you look at, I saw a photograph. There's only little bits and pieces
Right.
of the fragments
Yes.
of the poetry.
Right.
There's one actually that is incomplete, right? There's a complete Aphrodite, Song of Aphrodite, or something.
Yeah,
like
there's
that.
one that's
Ode
there's
to
a longer
Aphrodite.
one.
There's a longer one,
have
but
set that one.
that's the only one that's complete, and the rest of them are in
Yes.
parts and fragments.
Yeah, I should have
Right.
brought my lyre. I actually get to play this medieval lyre. So
Oh,
it's
really?
this beautiful stringed instrument. It's
Yes.
13 strings. I actually had it
And you
made for
played
me.
it? Oh, really? And
I
you
have
played
never
it?
played it before. I'm scared out of my mind, but I'm
Right.
going to do it.
Right. What got you interested in music? Is it a family thing, or did?
It's not a family thing in the sense of my parents aren't musicians, but my mom always had a great love for music, and
Sure.
I grew up listening to classical music, and I was a piano player since I was 4 and started
Okay.
doing competitive piano, and then I was also performing,
Yes.
and my family is very artistic, so
Where are you
that
from
was
originally?
encouraged. Amherst, Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's an artsy town. Of
course.
You know, there's a lot going on there. So that was initially how I became interested. It was almost like there was never anything else, honestly.
Right, with
For me.
music, right? And you
Yeah.
got interested in that, and then so you said before this you did some off Broadway. You wrote a couple of pieces for that, and you sang in off Broadway and things like that, right?
So I had a musical, Tamar of the
Yes.
River, that was actually performed. The lead was Margot Seibert, who played Adrian in Rocky on Broadway.
Right, really?
So yeah, I didn't sing
wow.
in that. I kind of taught a lot of the singers my vocal style, but I had been very clear at that point that I wanted to separate myself as a performer from my writing. I really wanted to be taken seriously as a composer.
Okay.
And so yeah, that piece happened, and now I have another off-Broadway musical coming up
What's that?
in April, and that's called 1,000 Nights and One Day. So that
1001
gives you
night.
yes.
And what is that?
exactly.
Nights is in K-N-I-G-H-T or N-I-G-H-T?
No, it's N-I-G-H-T-S.
Right.
Yeah.
And what are those nights?
So this piece is a collaboration with Jason Grote, the playwright, and he wrote a play called 1001, and it's a warped, crazy version of the Scheherazade stories, and we
see.
jump back into ancient Persia and into a post-apocalyptic future, and then the story centers ultimately around modern-day New York with a Jewish man and a Palestinian American woman.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so do you what is off Broadway means the size of the theater. It's not
That's
the
true.
location of
Right.
the theater, right?
Right.
So that means it's just a smaller theater
It's
under
a smaller theater under a different contract.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's what that means. So where is that
Yes.
going to be? Do you know where?
Yeah, so it's going to be the New Art New York Theaters, which is right. It's actually very close to here.
Right. In the 50s.
Yeah, in the 50s and 10th, and it's a beautiful new space. It's gorgeous, and it's going to be great.
All right. Great. Looking
Yeah.
forward to that.
Yeah.
Right, you can come on and talk about that when it comes to
Great.
that time.
Fantastic.
But now we're talking about Judson Memorial Church
Yes.
and what we've been talking about here. So how long did it take you to prepare this?
Well, we are preparing it currently. I mean, I was in rehearsal last night, all
Yes.
weekend, tomorrow.
Well, going back to like the writing, when
the writing,
when
yeah.
the moment you got the idea to
Yeah.
this point, how long was that?
The moment I got the first idea, I think, was about 2.5 years ago when I was at an artist's residency in New Hampshire called McDowell,
Yeah.
and I was basically I was there for 6 weeks, and all you do is
Yeah.
do your work, and it's amazing. They bring you
Right.
food like for
Yeah.
all your meals. It's insane, and that's when I was first. It was actually a surprise because I was actually reading the Song of Songs as inspiration for the work I was trying to do on Hildegard von Bingen, and she had mentioned Song of Songs, so I was reading it, and then it was like miraculously all this music just came to me in the moment, and the thing set itself for a while.
Wow.
And so I was working with it, and I didn't know, what is this piece? I don't know.
Yeah.
And then I brought it back to New York, and I called up a director who I work with and love, and a choreographer who is also close to me, and showed them these different pages, and then that's when it began to come together as a theatrical musical piece.
Right. And the core, as you call them,
Yeah.
you guys work together all the time?
That's right. So that is also about 2 years. Also, when I came back from the residency, it was for me, it was like this existential crisis. I finished this musical, and what was I going to do?
What's next?
And I wanted to find a way to explore voice more deeply.
Sure.
And that was actually for many reasons, which were environmental and personal and social, and physical, honestly. It was, writing for me had been very piano-based and very solo-based, and I was looking for a way to be able to compose while I'm walking in nature and be able to feel my body, to be able to communicate.
How do you compose while walking in nature? Can you walk and compose at the same time?
You can. You can indeed.
Right.
Well, it's for me, it's actually a natural extension of my writing, because nature is what inspires me.
Sure.
So I actually feel cut off when I'm in a room.
Where did you find the nature? In New York, like in Woodbridge?
I know, it's
right?
a problem. Well, on this residency,
Yeah.
I was in the middle of the woods,
Yeah.
and there's nothing around. It's just gorgeous. And then I went to another one out in Wyoming, and that was
That's out
super
there.
inspiring.
That's nature.
Totally nature.
Right,
But I mean,
right.
honestly, I have to, even in New York, I actually partly live upstate in Hudson, so I can go there to write.
Right, and that's wooded area on the,
It's
the
wooded,
river.
it's
right.
something. But even here, you know, if I don't go and commune with nature, it's not it doesn't go well for me in my life. So even here, it's like up
You
near
need
the
to be
cloisters.
near nature, right?
Yeah,
you need to
at
go out
least-
there.
at
And
least-
Wyoming's pretty much out there, so
Yes.
when you say nature, you mean nature.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and that's where I was walking through these huge mountains, and it was great to see the different kind of music that I was creating in that environment from in the northeast, for example.
Right, so that's the trees. Why you were hugging a tree? You really are a tree hugger. Okay, now I get it.
I love
It makes
that
sense.
image has stayed with
Right,
you.
right,
I have
right.
hugged
Of
trees.
course it
I
did.
love trees.
Of course it
But I was going to say that's when I came back and wanted to be creating my music in community, and also I wanted to be able to improvise and teach people to improvise based around the aesthetic principles I'm interested in.
Is that like jazz, what you're doing? Is that improvise as you go? Could it be every performance different, or do you actually...
Yeah, there's moments that are always different, but but there's also places that are very structured improv. So it's like there might be a certain range, or there might be a certain scale, and there might be a certain...
You guys know each other, so you've worked together. You're 15
Every Friday,
compatriots,
I
right?
have
So
a
you know each
residency.
other. So when you're
Yeah.
like a jazz band working off of each other.
Yeah, kind of like a jazz band, more like a kind of magical creature thing,
Sure.
like an organism.
An organism.
Yeah,
That's great. Good.
I mean, because I do feel like that's one of the things that fuels me and this work with Constellation
Yes.
Chor is virtuosic singing and music, but really intersecting with energy and spirit.
Right.
So for me, I'm a very trained musician and a very skilled musician, and it's so important to me to really bring alive that kind of thing, music. But I also never want to leave behind the kind of exploration of energy, physical energy and spiritual energy, and how we
That's amazing
communicate.
you found a large number of people, because that seems to me a large number of people, 15 people, who actually
who actually want
share,
to do that with me.
Yeah, right, who share that very complex
It's
sort of
really
idea, right?
amazing.
Right,
It's
right.
I mean, these people I've worked with in various capacities since I've known some of them for 10 years. Many of them were in Tamar of the River, that musical, but you know, I think people are actually hungry for that kind of work and communication.
Right.
You know, it is amazing, and it's a beautiful, unique thing.
Great,
I mean,
great.
For
So
sure.
it's Judson Memorial Church.
Yes.
It's on February 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, the Desire Divinity Project at Judson. 55 Washington Square South. You get there on all the trains, A, B, C, D, E, F, N, M. It's like the alphabet here to West 4th Street, right?
Yeah.
And you can get information either at brownpapertickets.com, and that's
DD Project.
DD Project, or your website, which is
Marisa Michelson.
right, M-I-C
Helson, and Marisa with one S.
one S.
Yeah.
Right, there it is, right. And so that's where you can get more information and find out about it. So last 3 minutes, what are you working on next? Tell us a little bit about your next
Great.
project.
So right after, actually I was there today in auditions for this next project, and this is the 1,000 Nights in One Day.
Right.
And we go into rehearsal in March, and we'll be running the month of April, and that's another beast.
Have you written all the material yet for that?
Yeah, I've written
It's
most
already
of the material,
written,
but I
right.
have to orchestrate the material, and I'm co-orchestrating that with this amazing person.
Okay. Are you going out to nature to do that?
I do a little bit, a little
okay,
bit.
right. You'll
yeah.
find but it's a little cold for. You're not afraid by cold. You're
I'm not
being
afraid
natural.
I'm not afraid.
You
of
like cold. You're
yeah.
from Massachusetts. Where
Yeah, I do. I like the variety.
you can't be afraid of snow.
Yeah.
There, right?
No.
In Central Mass, right? So you're not afraid of cold weather. You love nature, like going out into nature,
I
and
do.
so you're gonna. At some point, you'll probably be out there. Watching the majesty of like trees.
I will say though that
did I
that's
say
kind
trees
of
again? I didn't mean to say
you
trees.
love the
again.
trees.
I love
know.
the trees. I love trees. Right.
It's not. I mean, that kind of thing, the experience of being in the nature composing. That's the
Yes.
beginning. That's like the seed kernel
Right.
for something like what I have to do with 1,000 Nights orchestrating. That's the kind of skillful you have to be sitting in front of your computers doing
Right.
the skill.
Right. The skill part. After you get the initial inspiration,
Right.
then it's go to the lab to work on the computer and to.
Yeah, and just kind of go. But I want to shout out to Kurt Crowley, who's
Go
my
ahead.
music director and
Yeah.
co-orchestrator, and the current musical director of Hamilton.
Oh,
and
really?
he's fantastic. I'm excited to be working with him.
Really? So you okay? So that's interesting. So this is going to be a great show. I mean, we saw you
Great.
promote. This sounds like a great show.
Yeah.
All right, half a minute. What do you want to leave us with? What's the final
The final thing to leave,
summation of everything?
Summation of everything. I guess I will say that I'm grateful to have the people I work with. It's the team that makes everything possible, and without, especially the performers and the singers being devoted to the work, it wouldn't happen. And that's just a great gift, you know.
right.
And I feel
That's
very,
what
very lucky.
All right, great. So it's
Yeah.
all about working together.
Absolutely.
All right, great. Thank you, Marisa Michelson, for joining us on Let
Thank
Them
you
Talk.
so
And we'll see you
much.
next week. Great show. Very interesting. Thanks for
Great.
joining us.
So good
and-
to talk to you.
Yeah, it sure was.
Thank you.
Okay. That's it.